Hello everyone, David here. Welcome back to another episode of MixbusTv Plugin Awards 2024. In this series of video, I'll show you my most used, my favorite, and what I think are the most innovative plugins for 2024, divided by category. We've seen compressors, mastering plugins, EQs, delay and reverbs are gonna come, and in this one, we're gonna see the best mixing plugins. Let's go. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixbusTv. Hope you guys are having a great day. Before we start, check the info box down below because these videos are coming out around Black Friday and Cyber Monday, so you're gonna find a lot of discounts and offers in there. If you want to book mix and mastering with me, go to the website MixbusTv.com. In there you can also book mix consultations and private lessons and find all the mix and mastering courses. And yes, we have a Black Friday discount code. It's Black Friday 40% off everything that is on the website. If you want to access the exclusive in-depth mix and mastering videos here on YouTube, click the join button, become a MixbusTv member, get all the perks. And if the videos are helping you want to support the channel, please consider using the super thanks or grab some merch. Let's start with the first one. This shouldn't come as a surprise for anybody who's been following the channel for a minute. Softube Console 1 is my personal mixing system of choice. All my mixes, I have Console 1 on every channel. I have been since the day Console 1 came out, like the very first one. And to be honest, the plugin side of my mixes, so not counting the hardware, I want to say 70% it's done with Console 1. So for anything that regards saturation, that include preamp saturation, drive, tape saturation, colors, channel EQ and compression. As you know, my starting point is SSL 4K. That's what mostly on every channel. I change here and there. And of course, on Console 1, you can customize the channel any way you want. So for example, this is my starting point. So there's SSL everything, SSL 4K for dynamic shaper, equalizer, and compressor. And as you can see, I start with the color disengaged as for the preamp, but all I have to do is engage it. My starting point is tape, which is one of the algorithms that you can find here in the preamp section. You can see how many choices Console 1 has. Modern preamp, I use that all the time. And then we have vintage preamp, another amazing saturation, 3 types of tapes, and now we also have the UAD plugins that you can control and use inside Console 1, which is great. And that goes for all the compressors and all the EQs as well from UAD. See how many choices do I have? I have all the API EQs, Neve EQs, Chandler, Empirical Lab, all the SSL. So we have 4000 and 9000. We also have FabFilter Pro Q3 and all the FabFilter plugins as well. We have the Summit stuff, TubeTech stuff, and the Vase bundle as well. And you can do this for any of the modules. Same for the compressor, all the American, British, bus processor, Chandler, the core suite, which are really great. These are proprietary Softube plugins here, the drummer stuff. On top of that, we have the driver channel, which changes based on what console you load at the beginning. And we have utility stuff, like for example, the core panner. This is a 3D panner that comes with Console 1 and it's freaking amazing. And again, you have more utility here. It's so freaking comprehensive and it's got literally everything, and you can totally mix just with this mixing system, which also obviously has the controller. The Console 1 controller is here. Now I have the fader, which is also freaking awesome. This is a system that I'm genuinely in love with. It sped up my workflow so much. I know this sounds like an advertisement, but it's not. This is genuinely what I use every day for my job. The second is Neutron version 5. This was just released not long ago, and it's a massive improvement from the previous Neutron 4, which was great already. I actually still have it. The one thing I'm not a fan of with iZotope is when they update Neutron 4 to Neutron 5, if you have projects where you use Neutron 5, is not backward compatible. So you have to keep version 4 until you're sure you're not gonna reopen an old mix. That's the only thing that I wish they could find an alternative for this, because Ozone also does that. But this plugin is absolutely great. We got Clipper, we got Compressor, we got Density, which is one of the new modules. This is kind of an upward compression, but it's extremely natural. We have the Equalizer, which also has dynamic equalizer functions in it. We have Exciter, we have Phase, one of the new modules which I showed in a short video. This is actually pretty impressive. You can manipulate the phase, and let's say for example you have two basses, right, cabinet and DI, or two kicks in and out, or multiple samples. You can actually visualize the phase and either automatically align it or manually align it. We have the Sculptor module, which I don't personally use that much, but it can be very, very useful. Transient Shaper, this one being a multiband, is one of the tools, one of the modules inside Neutron that I use more often. And then Unmask, this is another one of those intelligent tools that I personally don't use that much, but especially for non-experienced mixing engineer can be a godsend. In all this, Neutron had the mixing system, so the mixing assistant and multiple tracks that talk to each other and can help you shape your mix. This is a really good plugin and a lot of bang for your bucks, especially with the new modules, some of them having the transient sustain mode where you can apply processing only on the transient part or the sustain part. Next plugin in the list is McDSP 6060 Ultimate Module Collection, and I feel this plugin is very underrated. It gives you so much. Again, it gives you virtually everything you need to mix a record. It has this 500 series style GUI, which is resizable by the way, and you have a ton of different processors divided in EQ, comp, and more. 12 different types of EQ from colored to utility. 10 different compressors, again from vintage style to some famous emulation like 2A and 3A, British style compression, and also some original design by McDSP. And then we have the more categories, and in here there are some absolute gems. 12 choices. We have again some utility like gates. We have different saturation plugins. I'm gonna show them and put them one next to another because of course you can build your rig. You have this many spaces and you can move them around. You have de-esser, you have the now famous BOB. This thing is absolutely incredible for anything bass. We have the tape module that sounds awesome. This is one of the gems along with the BOB that I was talking about, but my favorite might be this, the Shine. This is kind of a top-end exciter, and you can see it's very simple, mode 1, mode 2, and then lift 1 or 2. This thing should be illegal. I don't think I've ever actually talked about this plugin because I kind of wanted to keep it for myself to some extent, but this thing is brutal when you need to add top end and brightness and clarity, but you don't want the harshness. The Shine module alone with the tape and the BOB is probably worth the price of the entire thing. This thing is absolutely crazy. Next one is a more specific plugin after the you can mix a record with just this. It's Unfiltered Audio Bass Mint. This thing is absolutely a must-have. It's my new favorite for anything sub specifically manipulation, but obviously bass in general. But the synthesize, saturate, and octave are so good sounding. They really saved me a lot of time, so many times, and they also rescued either tracks that I had that I received to mix or full mixes that lack low end or they had some kind of problem in the low end. This thing is the one-stop shop for anything sub and low. I really love it, and the controls and the extra functions, all the options are extremely well designed. Hats off, because this plugin is really impressive. New entry, I have many filter plugins and there's some great ones out there, but I had to pick one, and this was just released not long ago by Polyverse. We covered a few effects from Polyverse. They make crazy good plugins, and this one is no less. It's called Filterverse, and this for me became my ultimate filter plugin. Everything that I want from a filter plugin, it has it. I will probably do a full review of this plugin because it was released not long ago and I didn't even have the time, but I started using it. I fell in love because it's so comprehensive. There's so much that you can do with this, starting from the routing page. Look at this, from how good the filters sound, how versatile this thing is, and how easy it is to set up. Because sometimes I don't want something like this. Sometimes I just want a simple filter maybe with some extra options like drive and few other things. And this one is so easy to set up and it sounds so good. Even just the ergonomics and the GUI for me is very important. Like when I want to keep a fast pace and mixing and I want something and I have an effect, and I use filters a lot on the return of my effects, if that makes sense. So reverbs and delays or pads of texture, soundscapes, and Filterverse really clicked with me immediately and I started using it from day one. Next one, I think I mentioned it in another video in the awards this year, but this is another plugin that in my opinion is not only a no-brainer, but I think it's pretty much the only one of its kind at this time. So while it looks like a regular, we can say, dynamic EQ, the way it applies the gain reduction that we see, or the boost if you do it upward, is not based on the signal exceeding the threshold on a nominal level, so on an absolute level, right? But it's based on the relationship between, let's say, these two ranges, or let's take this off, for example, this range, right, the harshness range, compared to everything else. So only when this range becomes too much relative to whatever else is happening in the track, that's when it applies the gain reduction. So it's much closer to how we and our brain perceive the sounds, and complex sounds in particular. And this one helps with what? Helps you one of the most difficult thing in mixing, which is masking. Killer tool for mastering, but also for single tracks. And it's like all the other Talking on Lab plugins, it's at a beyond affordable price range. So I absolutely advise you to get this one. You're gonna love it. Next one is another McDSP, and it's Fuzzbox. If you follow me, you know how much I use this plugin and for how long I've been using it since it came out. So like we're talking about probably what, a decade or more ago, and it's still unbeaten for this type of effects for me. There are others that came to the market that are very cool, various cassettes, various growth box plugins that are cool, but this one wins simply because of all the real life emulation that it has for the voicing of the simulation between all the phones, box speakers. It's got toys, car stereos, TVs, and this effect alone, I give this effect the credit of shaping a big part of my mixes, whether it is in insert, whether doing crazy vocals or weird sounds on basses or synths, or use on the return of the effects. In fact, if we look at the EC300 effect delay from McDSP, they put the simulation in the digital model of that delay, because I guess a lot of people were doing what I was doing. It was following a delay with Fuzzbox to make crazy color and unique sounding effects. This thing is so cool, and this new version, besides the new GUI, has new functions. For example, the distortion and saturation, which, by the way, we have a pre-filter section here, we have a distortion section, EQ filter, which is just one band that you usually use to notch things or cut extra lows or highs. The simulation with so many different real life object and media, a noise generator which you can duck it, you can shape it, you can filter it, and then a gate. But the saturation module alone, if you want to bypass everything else, you can use this thing as a saturator, and is one of the best saturator out there. Also has some extra feature like the tuned mode for the saturation, like the single or multi for the chop knob, and more. This is definitely my favorite effect of this kind. Next one is another, I feel, extremely underrated plugin. I want to say criminally underrated, because the PSP InfiniStrip is another one of those plugins that have basically everything that you need to mix a record. You could literally do everything with just this. And I think this is overlooked, and some of the modules are overlooked because it's in this all-in-one package. But just the preamps alone, the 60s, we have 70s, we have 80s, and even ADC 90s, so 90s converter drives. These things alone sound awesome. You could use one on every channel just as a console, but we have so many different modules. Some are utilities, so basic filters, gate, we have compressor, OptoFET, VCA, and we can open one here, so you can recognize the style here. And we have the old timer in this format, which is a really great plugin from them. EQ, so we have channel EQ. We have the precursor, which is available in either a bundle or as a single plugin. The retro EQ is another one that sounds great. Here's the gem. The saturator, which I want to show you, has got this really cool light indicator here to show you the intensity of the saturation. This saturator model is a dirty little secret. It's so good sounding. You should definitely try it if you're not familiar with it. But yes, PSP InfiniStrip needed to make the list. I'm not telling you anything new with this one, but this is probably, along with the de-esser, I don't want to say the only plugin that I use from FabFilter, because I have them all and I occasionally use them, but I'm not a Pro Q3 user. I don't really use the other plugins that they have. Pro-MB is definitely all over my mixes, and usually you can see literally my starting preset. This is my kick-based sidechain, right? So usually that's how I use Pro-MB. I use it for sidechaining, and I mean sidechaining everything, because I sidechain a lot of things in my mixes. Kick and bass is like the basic, but guitars with vocals, synths, with effects, and anything. I have very, very complex matrix of sidechaining in my mixes, especially if they are high track count, and this is my go-to. Sometimes I use it as a regular dynamic processor on the insert itself, and again, when I want something clean, broad, because this is the way I use it, you will almost never see me doing something like this. I think when you want a notch type of thing, I usually go for dynamic EQ, and Nova GE is my go-to dynamic EQ. I really like this one for broader ranges of control and usually smooth, clean. Like I said, I always keep the dynamic phase, which doesn't affect the crossover point until it's actually performing the gain reduction. So it just by inserting it in dynamic mode, it doesn't change the material. It only changes when it applies the gain reduction, whether it's compression or expansion. And I think it's just a badass utility plugin, of course, everybody knows it. And another function that I often use on this one is the trigger for the band. So for example, I want to add more click to a kick drum. Maybe I have a stem or is a full mix. In this case, I will trigger the top band with the low band with the kick drum, and every time the kick hits, it will boost the top end. So this is another way I use Pro-MB. Again, FabFilter has a sale going on. The link is gonna be down below. Definitely the right moment to grab them. Last one is actually last two, and both are utility plugin, we can say. And this is Drum Replacer by UVI. I work with drums a lot. I work with a lot of real drums, real acoustic recorded drums, or coming from maybe SD3 or other drum modules. And Drum Replacer is my choice for when I have to add samples to maybe a real drum or a module, or create a stack for a snare, for a kick, for anything like that. Besides that, you can see these numbers here. I don't have anything learned right now in the plugin, but you can feed a full drum track, whether it's an acoustic drum recorded with overheads or a full drum loop, and it will separate kick, snare, and all the parts, and then you can add your own samples and completely change the kit or enhance the kit. It's beyond impressive, and you can see when you load a sample, you can also go in and trim if you want it to start right there. You can modify the sample with fade, trimming, input and output. You also have attack. You can see the blue shade there, velocity and all that, and you can add as many as you want. And usually this is exactly how I create my stacks for snares and kicks. I put all my samples here. You can decide each volume, you can tweak each one, you can phase align everything, and the output is what is gonna be my final kick or snare. Usually that's what I use this for, and one channel, and I do all the work in here. It's absolutely great. Again, if you're not familiar with this UVI Drum Replacer, go get it. The other one I want to mention is kind of a honorable mention, is Drumagog, because for how crazy it will sound, I still use Drumagog on a regular basis to add samples, because I really love the old libraries that they had, and I still use it on, of course, like industrial rock, metal mixes like that. Probably because I'm so used to it, I know it inside out. But I really like, especially if I want to keep the original dynamic of a drum, I still feel Drumagog is one of the best, and it gives me a quite accurate output of what the original dynamic drum was. So definitely these two had to be in the list. And I think this is it for the video. I want to know, what are your favorite mixing plugins in the comments down below. If you like the video, please don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to check the info box for all the links and all the Black Friday deals, but even after, there's going to be discounts. If you want to book mix and mastering with me, go to the new website, MixbusTv.com. In there, you can also find all the mix and mastering courses, and we do have a Black Friday discount. Black Friday, 40% off of everything. If you want to access the exclusive in-depth mix and mastering videos here on YouTube, click the join button, become a MixbusTv member. And if the videos are helping you, you want to support the channel, please consider using the super thanks or grab some merch. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Stay safe. See you next time.